Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Wilson, and I am going to be giving you a brief tutorial today on how to use the Canvas platform. Canvas is used in most online courses offered by Portland State University, so getting familiarized with the platform is important if you're going to be doing your best in each of your classes, and if you want to make sure that you are kept up to date on all of the little bits of information, assignments, discussions, and the various other things that are going to be happening as you progress through your term in school. So, when we look at Canvas, the very first thing that you're going to see when you enter the platform is the main dashboard. Yours is going to look different from mine. It is based on what classes you're currently taking, and at first glance, it looks like a big mess of different things, particularly once you've gotten a little bit further into the term, showing you events, announcements, assignments, anything else that you can think of. So we're going to ignore this for now, and we are going to take a look at the left-hand side of the screen here where we have all of the different widgets, and we're going to work our way down from the top to the bottom so we can have a little bit better of an understanding as to what each does. Looking at the left here, the very top, we're going to see the Portland State University icon. That is just going to take you right back to the dashboard. So when you're looking at any of these other sections of Canvas, if you ever want to just return to the dashboard, you have the option of clicking it, or you can just click that logo up in the top. The first main widget is going to be the account, and underneath this, you'll have a lot of different subsections. It's going to be headed by your lovely little profile picture with your name, as well as the option to log out if you're sharing a computer or anything like that, so that you can free it up for the next person and not allow them access to your individualized Canvas profile. The first of the subsections is the Notifications tab. This one has a lot of customization options in it. So when you first open it up here, you might have these two little notifiers like me. You can just close those out. You're going to see a settings for, and then a little drop down box here. This is to allow you to determine how broad you want your changes to be. So, for example, if you want to change things for your entire account, let's say you're taking 3 classes and you want to change how much you get notified for all 3 of them at once, this is what you want to use, just the account-wide settings. But let's say you're taking 3 courses and some of them you find the notifications more helpful than others. Some of them you want to stay more on top of than others. You'll have a little identifier for your current term. For me here, it's fall 2025, and then your current classes. I only have the one course, but if you were, say, taking a math, a reading, and a science class, they would all be listed here, and you could click on any of them in order to change the settings just for that class. So with that in mind, let's talk about some of the settings that you are able to change. Looking back at the main account option, we're going to go down to the course activities here. You'll see your email address listed in the middle column. That's your primary point of contact for Canvas, meaning any of these notifications are going to send you something to this email with whatever frequency you are picking for each individual notification activity. You'll also see on the right here, it has a push notification option. This is for if you have a second device that you're using, a phone, an iPad, anything like that. And that is if you have that synced up to Canvas and you would like to have those notifications go to that device as well. So you have 2 options for each. You can change how much you're notified on each platform. For example, you may want to only get updated by email about your due dates once a week. But if you have a phone or an iPad, again, any of those other devices, you may want to be notified as soon as a due date is changed. So for each of these options, you're going to have the notify immediately, the daily summary, the weekly summary, and the option to turn notifications off altogether. Notify immediately is just like it sounds. As soon as whatever option here happens, in this case, the professor changing the due date for an assignment, you will be notified right then. You'll get an email, you'll get a push notification on your second device. If you instead change it to daily summary, you're going to be notified at the end of each day with a summary of all of the actions that happened under that activity type. So let's say the professor changes the due date for 5 different assignments over the course of a day, but they don't do them all at once. Instead of getting 5 individual notifications throughout the day, you're going to just get one at the end that shows all 5 of those date changes. The weekly summary is the same thing, but for a weekly basis. And notifications off, once again, just like it sounds, means you will not be notified at all. Now, why would you want to change any of these? Well, it depends on your individual circumstances. It depends on which activity it is, and it depends on which course you're taking. For example, if you are in a course with a lot of online discussion posts, you may find that leaving it on notify immediately swarms your email with notifications as you have 5, 10, 15 people all posting, chatting back and forth. And every single time one of them sends a message, that's going to go directly to your email. So instead, you might want to do like I have and have it instead send you that daily summary so that at the end of each day, you can go ahead and take a look and see what all of the discussion posts for the day were and maybe have a more full view of what the conversation that took place was without having to check in every 5, 10, 15 minutes. Weekly summaries can be beneficial for some options. The just want to watch out if you're going to go that route and make sure that you're still checking in on things if your course requires you to pay a little bit more frequent attention throughout the week. But what I personally recommend is giving it a week or two in the course, seeing what notifications you feel like you're getting too often, which ones you feel like you're not getting frequently enough, and then taking a trip over to this notifications tab and adjusting things to better fit your preferences. As always, if you have any specific questions relevant to your course about how important these different options are, how often you think you should be taking a look at them, you can always ask your professor, and they would surely be happy to give you some more detail on that front. So moving along, we're going to take a look at the profile tab very quickly because it's very short. This is just your little page. It'll have your name. You can fill in your information for your biography here. You can add links if you would like to add anything to a second website so that people taking a look at your page here can go to that very easily. If you want your classmates to know something about you without having to ask every time, typing it into the biography is a great way to do that. After that, once again, we're going to really quickly just take a look at the Files tab. This is just going to contain all of the files you have uploaded to Canvas. How much you're going to be uploading files depends on which courses you're taking and what their workload looks like. Some classes will have you uploading files for a lot of your submissions. Other ones are going to be primarily reading or discussion based, where there's no requirement to upload a file on a regular basis. And so, for example, the course here, the Higher Education in Prison Capstone, is not going to have any files for me at the moment because this is not a class in which we've needed to upload those at all thus far. But if you're taking a course where you are required to do that, you can always take a peek in the file section and find a list of everything you've uploaded in case you lose the hard copy of it or you just want to have it all organized in one place and take a look back through it. Next, we're going to look at the Settings tab. This is going to have your email address listed over here on the right under the Ways to Contact. You can add additional email addresses if you have a second email that you would prefer people contact you through, though that's certainly not necessary. The main settings are all listed here in the middle, and you have the option to change a couple of those. The two main settings that you can change are going to be the language that Canvas is using. That can be very beneficial if your first language is not English, if you would prefer to have Canvas in Spanish or French, for example. You can set that here, update the settings, and the language for all of the default wording throughout the platform will change to reflect that. It, of course, will not change the language used by your classmates when they are typing. For that, you would have to ask them and hope that they speak the same language as you. The time zone is the other option. This is generally going to be correct by default, but if you were to move from one time zone to another over the course of the class that you're taking, you could go in here and change that so that the time in Canvas reflects the time where you are currently. That can be beneficial just to make sure you don't, for example, move somewhere that is a few hours behind and accidentally miss a due date because you're turning it in the last minute and your clock matches Canvas's clock for the due date, but that is just because you are 2 hours late and you are somewhere that is 2 hours earlier than what you have it originally set to. Most of the time, this won't be an issue though. It's just something good to know about in case you run into one of those situations. Down here, you can see the integrations. This is, again, only really beneficial if you're using one of those second devices that you could switch the push notifications for in the notifications tab. Here is going to just outline those second devices that you have Canvas installed on, and you can choose to remove them if for some reason you lost the device and you wanted to make sure that people were not able to access your Canvas profile in it any longer. Down at the bottom here, you'll see the user section. This has a couple of easier options that you can toggle on and off. For example, showing closed captions by default, and that's going to be localized to whatever language you've picked up here. If you were to change it from English, it's only going to apply to videos that have closed captions available, but it can be very handy, particularly if you're like me and you're just someone who enjoys having a caption to read along with while watching the video. So I recommend going through these as well, just as you did with the notifications tab, taking a look at them. And if you find during your time in the course that you're taking anything stands out as an issue, you can go ahead and check here and see if you're able to change it. The other big one that I like to point out is the high contrast UI here. If you are to toggle this one on or off, what it does is it enhances the contrast of the colors. If you have any difficulty differentiating between very similar shades, this can be really beneficial to allow you to make those differences stand out to your eye. Moving on from here, we're going to look at the portfolio. This is also going to be very quick because I do not have any portfolios that I have been assigned. But if you want to or are assigned to create some kind of portfolio, you can do that here. You can add the various bits to it. If you're taking a course where they want you to use this, they will likely give you a little bit more instruction on what they want it to look like, what is going to be necessary to include. But you can do things like name the portfolio, add a cover image to show, as well as a brief description, and then add any evidence or sections to it as you wish. When you go through Canvas, every once in a while, you'll run across a little question mark in a circle like this. And what that means is if you mouse over it, the platform will give you some more information on what exactly this is. So for example, next to tags, we mouse over and we can view tags that have been added to our evidence, anything that we have added using this button here. Additionally, if you get assigned any portfolios to look at, you can find those in the same section and then do whatever it is you need to do with it per your assignment by following through here. The last two options are also going to be very quick. The QR for mobile login relates back to if you have that second device again, it just generates a QR code here. You can use the camera app on whatever device you're using to scan this QR code and then add the platform to your device a little bit quicker than doing it the more roundabout download, log in, confirm method that is common. The last tab is just going to be the global announcements. I have not received any in the last 4 months, so it is not too common. But these announcements are for things that are not relevant just to your specific class or classes, but to the platform of Canvas as a whole. So this can be good to take a look at if you do remember getting a big announcement and you weren't sure, you didn't have time to read exactly what it was. Those are all going to be kept here so that you can go back and take a look when you have some time. This should finish up our look at the account section. After this, we are going to move on to the main dashboard, the courses tab, the calendar, inbox, history, and everyone's favorite, the help tab. Now that we've finished up with the accounts tab, we are going to take a look at the main dashboard tab, the one that we can reach once again by either clicking the dashboard itself or clicking that icon in the top left. And this is going to contain a kind of notification page for everything that is happening in your courses. Mine is going to be a whole lot of CAP Higher Ed in Prison 537 Fall 2024 on here, and that is because I am taking the one course. This is, of course, actually a 2025 class, but as long as we can confirm that in two different places, we don't need to worry too much if this one has the prior year on it. So this is a very easy way to just kind of condense things down, to scroll through on a day-by-day basis to see what is due, what is happening. For example, do I have an assignment that is going to need to be turned in by a specific date? Is there a discussion thread that is starting on a specific date? A video that's posted, a Zoom meeting I'm expected to attend? All of that is going to be included here. It also does this handy little thing where you can see when something has been marked completed. For this course, the reflection journal that we do is through our Google Drives. So that is not on the Canvas platform. So it does not automatically get marked as completed like the weekly discussion does when that is finished and graded for each week. But in other courses where the majority or all of the work is done inside of Canvas, you'll be able to use this as kind of a checklist showing what you have done and what you still need to do on a specific date basis. Scrolling all the way to the bottom here, past all of these, we can see everything leading up to the very end of the course. And that way, if you're looking to plan ahead a little bit, you can kind of use this to visualize your journey from the start of the term all the way to the end. That is our very brief overview of the dashboard tab. It is not too complex, so there's not too much to dive into there. You can use it to get to your specific courses in the Courses tab, and we'll go over that just a little bit when we cover the courses up next. All right, moving on from the dashboard tab and into courses. This is where you're going to find the bulk of the functionality from Canvas. When you click on the widget on that left bar right there, you're going to see all of the courses you're currently taking listed here. You have the option of clicking all courses to see it in a different list format, or you can just go ahead and click on that individual class and go straight to the home page. Now, underneath this, you're going to have a lot of side options. But before we get into that, I just wanted to briefly go back to the dashboard and show how you can also go through and click on your class here anytime that you would like to go to that courses tab, and it will take you right to the same place. So within the courses tab, you're going to start off on the home page. That is going to handily have your recent announcements listed right up at the top. That is going to show whatever is most recent generally, so it's going to stay relevant to you. It has a handy little to-do list over here on the right showing you the assignments that you still need to turn in, as well as the assignments that you have recently done, and if there are any grades or feedback that have been released for those. Here on the top right, you're going to have three little options. The View Course Stream option. This is an expanded version, kind of that recent announcements. It just shows you recent things that have been posted to the course, so you can go ahead and take a look at those, see if there are any new announcements that are going to go back a little bit further than that one pinned to the top, see if there are any notifications for assignments that you've turned in recently, as well as if there are any recent responses to any discussion posts that you are a part of. Below that, and as you click on these, they are not visible when you go to each page, so you can keep that in mind. It's not that it disappeared, it's just that you are currently on the course stream, so you do not need to be able to click it. We can look at the course calendar. That's going to take us down to the next tab here. The course calendar is also a very good way to track things on a date-by-date basis. If you're more of a calendar than a list person, it's very handy because you can see the current day shaded in a little bit, and you can scroll in order to see any future, or if you want to go back, prior responses, assignments, or other due dates, and make sure that you haven't missed anything throughout your time in the course. Going back to the courses tab here and back to the class, the next option is the View Course Notifications, and this takes you back to the Accounts tab. You're now back in the notifications set here, but set to change things individually for this class. So that brings us back to where we were in the very first part of the video. That's another way to get back here. It's a second option for if you have those multiple classes where you would like to have the different notification types. Maybe you have one class where you are getting notices every 5 minutes and you'd like to have that come in at the end of each day. Maybe you have another class where there are a lot fewer notifications, but each one is very important, and you would like to have that one set to send you an email notice every time something is posted. That is something you can easily do here. You can always come back and change it if you decide you don't like the setting that you've put in place, and you can tailor your experience a little bit more to what you are looking for out of each class and the level of engagement that you're expected to have. So moving on back to the Home tab here, the main body of this section is going to be another list style breakdown of the different assignments due each week. But in addition to that, we're also going to have the different resources and readings that are optioned each week. I'm a big fan of this. It is going to break things down into nice little chunks that make it a little bit more accessible. So you can see week 1, week 2, week 3, I need to do this. I need to read these documents. And when you click on any of them, it will take you directly to the link presented by your professor. And as I'm clicking through these, clicking previous and next, what that's doing is just going up and down that list that you had there. So if, for example, you have finished with the first reading option for the week and you don't want to go back to the list, you just want to move right on to the next one, you can just click that next button and it will take you straight down the list until you reach the end. The only thing you want to pay attention to here as you're going through is eventually you will reach the end of the list of readings, and it's going to transfer over to the assignment for the week and any kind of rubric or instruction that's included as part of that, and then pull you down to the assignments tab, which we'll go over in more detail in just a minute. So going back to the home, when you are actually trying to access these different readings, you'll go ahead and click on them. And then up here at the top, it will tell you that it would like to open it in a new window. So we can go ahead and do that here. And we see it opens up a PDF of the document right there on the screen. So we can work our way through, read it top to bottom, and then close it and end up back on this screen here when we're done. So it's beneficial sometimes to just kind of give this a scroll, depending on your individual schedule. Maybe you need to read ahead just a little bit or plan out how much time you're going to have each day or each week to accomplish the various readings and assignments. And this is a great way to let you do that in advance. So, like I said, I am a big fan. Past this, we're going to come to the announcements tab, which we already took a little bit of a look at on the prior section. This just shows all of the announcements that have been posted in the course in top to bottom, newest to oldest fashion. If you're in a course where they offer a lot of announcements, you can search them here individually. So for example, the oldest announcement in my class is food assistance. So if we want, we can type food assistance in here, and it's going to separate that one out from all of the rest so that we don't have to scroll through the entire list. Depending on your class, this can be more or less useful. You can always just delete it and go back to having the entire list, and that will take care of the announcements. The next and very important for the beginning of the term option to look at is going to be the syllabus section. The syllabus section is exactly like it says, the syllabus for the course. When I first started college, my first day of every class was always one of my favorites because that was the day when we would sit and read the syllabus. They are often a little bit boilerplate, but there is a lot of valuable information if you know where to look. Things like the grading rubric for the course, any policies on attendance or making up late work, as well as the statements on academic integrity, incomplete grades, and some service options if you find that you encounter a scenario where you need to engage with some outside resources. So I recommend, as would your professors, I'm sure, going through the syllabus option when you first join a course. If it's online, they won't be able to make you sit down and do it like we used to on the first day of each class, but it is only to your benefit to give that syllabus at least one good read through so that you can make sure you know everything possible about the course before you dive in deeper. Past that, we are going to move to the modules section, and this, you're going to notice, looks a lot like the homepage. The homepage basically just condenses a few of these different subsections together for your benefit. But if you want to just focus on one, that is what these side options are for. And modules is the side option that focuses you in on my favorite part, the lists. So going from first week all the way through the 10th, everything is going to be included here. And just like when you're on the home page, clicking on any of these is going to let you have that next previous functionality or open it in a new window. Next, we are going to talk about discussions. Those can have a little bit more nuance to them, and that is going to be very fun for us to dive on into. Looking at the discussions tab under the courses widget, we are going to see all of the discussion posts that have been made for the term, separated neatly into their own individual little topics. And within each topic is going to be a full conversation between yourself, your classmates, and your professor. So we will take a look all the way back at the very first weekly discussion for this course. And we'll find up at the top the main post. So these discussion threads work kind of like an online forum where the original post, usually done by the professor, though not always, is going to be the furthest to the left at the top, and everything is going to kindly branch out from that original thread, working its way down and to the right. So we can see here the original post by the professor for my course, and then we can see her initial response to that, which is slightly down and slightly to the right of it. And then we can see the individual smaller threads all branching off. So this is one thread right here, one response, another thread, and you can always tell by lining them up with each other, and so on and so forth. You have a couple of options under each individual post within the discussion. You have the option to expand or condense the replies. So if you find that you are getting lost with how many replies an individual post has, you can go through and hide each of those, and that will allow you to see each thread and then open it on an individual basis so that you can read through them one at a time. You have the option to reply to the thread, which is going to open up your own little text box with a lot of different options, just like most text programs like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. You have the option to change your font. You have the option to set headings, bold, italic, underline, change the font color, add highlights, do many of the same things that you would do in those different text programs. You also have the same little headers that you'd find there at the top, being able to cut, copy, and paste. It also is very nice and provides you with the little shortcuts for each of them. So rather than doing this every time, you know that pasting is Control V. You can change in the view to make it full screen, which is going to make the text box very big. If you're typing a particularly long response, this can be very beneficial because it will allow you to see the whole thing at once rather than have it scrunched down into a small section of the page. And then when you are done, you can exit that. You can insert any kinds of images, as we see the professor has done here with her beautiful dog. You can also add links if you have a separate website you'd like people to be able to travel to. You can upload or record any media, and you can even add second documents if you don't want to retype everything within one and you would just like to have your comment be a link to it for people to go to and read what you have written in a second location. For this course, the equation and table functions aren't incredibly necessary, but it can be very useful depending on what kind of class you're taking. The formatting section just goes over many of the same things that you find above the text box, those bold, italic, underline, and strike through options. I'm a big fan of the strike through myself. It can be used for a great amount of emphasis when you are writing, maybe even a little bit of tongue-in-cheek wordplay. The headings, the blocks, the different font options if you do not like the default and you would like to change that up a bit, aligning things, etc. The Tools tab is going to have a word count for you, but this isn't super necessary in my experience because if you'll see on the bottom right here, it automatically tracks the words that you're writing. For example, this sentence is a few words. And that is going to then tell you you have 6 words written. So if you have a course where there's a specific word count that you're supposed to stay above or under, you can use this as an easy reference while you're typing to make sure that you're following along with that guideline and not being too brief in a class where they would like you to be wordy or too wordy in a class where they would like you to be brief. The last option is the table, and that is going to, just like under the insert, let you throw some tables in here. If you're trying to make a graph of some kind, if you're trying to present things with columns, this can be very useful to customize it a little bit. Down here, this is a smaller version of what you found in that view, the full screen. This is if you only want to change things a little bit. You can click the plus to continually make the box bigger and bigger and bigger until it expands all the way off your screen and you have to scroll just to see what you're typing. Or if you'd like, you can make it smaller and smaller until it reaches the point where only a single sentence is going to display at any given time. Neither of these are particularly useful, but they can be fun to play around with, particularly if you are just sitting and thinking of what exactly you would like to say in response to a post you just read. The full screen does the same as before, makes it big, then you can always go back, make it small. That is most of the functionality for replying. Liking is pretty simple. If you have any familiarity with the popular social media application Facebook, it is just like that. You give a big old thumbs up to whatever is posted, you show that you like it, and you offer your support to whoever wrote it with a mighty thumb. The last option is mark as unread. This can be beneficial in situations where you have opened the discussion thread, you find something that you would really like to read, but you just do not have the time to read it because it's going to automatically mark as read once you have opened this and taken a look at it. So it will no longer show on the prior page. But if you mark it as unread, it will now once again have this little dot on it. And when you go back to the main discussions page, you'll see it listed as an unread option. The same in reverse works. You can go ahead and mark it as read when you are done with it because you no longer want this post to show that you have an unread comment somewhere. And it will take a little bit to go ahead and do that because it is software and software is never perfect. So that is the main functionality of that. If you're asked to add your own discussions rather than just reply to one, you can do that here. You click the Add Discussion button, and then you're able to add a topic title if you want to name it something in particular. For example, Daniel's tutorial. Well, we want to capitalize that because we're very formal. Topic. Then we can add the content here, any attachments, if you have a video, picture, any other kind of link you'd like to throw on, and then a couple of options, such as making sure that the participants have to respond before viewing other replies. I have not taken a lot of math courses. I mostly focus on the humanities, but if you were to take one, I could see it being beneficial there, where you are expected to find solutions to problems yourself before collaborating with others to understand how they've gotten there. This will make it so that everyone has to post their own response to your original topic before they can see what everyone else has posted. The second is to allow liking. If you're not a big fan of thumbs or you're not a big fan of the like system in general, you can leave that unchecked and then no one will be able to like each other's posts. Everything will be perfectly neutral and unliked. Here we'll see the assign to. This is so that you can choose who the topic is going to apply to, who is going to be expected to respond to it. Mine is set to everyone and I cannot change it. That may be different in your course, so I would take a look at that if you're expected to make any discussion topics. And then finally, you can choose when it becomes available and when it locks. So if you are posting something that has a specific window where people are allowed to respond to it and afterward they are not supposed to, this is a great way to set a start and an end time for it that will then open and close the thread without you having to lift a finger. Mastery Paths is grayed out for me, so I cannot take a look at it. I take that to mean that it is not incredibly important. If you find in your course that mastery paths are incredibly important, I would ask your professor, and I sincerely apologize. So, leaving here, we're going to move things along and look at the assignments tab. This just shows assignments that you have yet to do, assignments that you have already done, as well as any assignments that exist in the limbo between coming up and already completed. So we can show by date by default. There's also a show by type option. So it depends on what you would prefer. If you prefer to have everything listed in order from upcoming, limbo, already done, you show by date. If you would like to have things broken down, for example, the weekly discussions for me here, the reflection journal here, I prefer looking at it this way, but it's completely up to you. You can instead set to show by type. Then after this, we're just going to take a brief look at the grades thread, and that is going to be pretty simple, I believe. Moving on to the grades tab, we can see my grades. So we can see that just like anyone else, I am not perfect. I have a 97.56% in the class. That is going to be updated each time a new grade is issued for some kind of assignment that you've done. You have the option here to calculate this percentage based either on the graded assignments only or all assignments. So if, for example, I was to stop doing anything for this class today, I was to not turn in these videos, not turn in my final paper, anything like that, we can see my final grade would be a 60.61%, which is a D. If you don't want to have all of those details shown, it just shows you by default the score. What the details do is show you the average for your class. For example, the average score for our reflection journal the first week was a 9.39. That's very good. That means that everyone was doing a great job. The same thing as you're moving along. It's not necessary to look at the details for them, but if you like data, it can be very fun just to see where exactly you fell within each assignment on the course, as well as how your classmates are doing so that you can kind of compare and contrast with them. Now here we see I got a 20 out of 25 on one of these assignments. That is an 80%. That factors in along with everything else to come to that total. And just like at the top here, if we uncheck that box, it's going to go ahead and switch from just showing the current grades to all of the grades, including those that haven't come out yet, and thus I have a 0 in. Moving along from the grades tab, we're going to take a look at the Zoom. Zoom is not used in this course, but if you have a course where you are frequently having Zoom meetings, those will be listed here. Upcoming meetings will be shown in this section. Any prior meetings will be shown here. And if they have any cloud recordings put on the Canvas page for your class, they will be retained right here. Same thing, if you have specific appointments that aren't full meetings, those will be shown here in the scheduling and upcoming events tabs. And then here is the Zoom whiteboard. I need permission to access this, so I cannot. Some classes will use it more than I have, and they will be able to give you a little bit more detail on how exactly that works. So that was a very quick look at the Zoom tab. From here, we're going to move on to the library resources. The library resources tab is going to have a number of different options that you can utilize here if you need to take advantage of the resources that are offered electronically. For example, you can ask a librarian, and this will give you the option to chat with a librarian if you have a specific question about a book or anything like that, to email one. That is going to obviously get you a response a little bit slower, but can be more convenient if you don't have the time to sit and chat currently. or to send a text message if you have access to a phone with texting service. Going back to the library resources, the study spaces and computers, the study room are not too relevant here, but the library services for students can be used for accessing things from the library, for getting to that research help section, and kind of just as a separate option for the overview that we're looking at here. So, on to the next tab, the people. This is handy if you are trying to find a specific person that you are working with in this course. By going to the People tab, you'll see a list of everyone taking the class together with you. It is alphabetized by last name, so you can see our professor, Deborah Arthur, at the top, and then you can see myself, Daniel Wilson, at the very bottom, where I have spent most of my life on attendance rosters and anything else with some kind of alphabetized last name system. Going here, we can click on any of the individual profiles, and then once it opens up, it'll take you right back to that profile page from your account that we looked at earlier. So if you have anything written here, you can find it by selecting the person from the People tab. You can look at the links that they have posted there. You can take your time and read through and familiarize yourself with any of your classmates as well as your professor, provided they have filled in their own profile section, which I have not because I'm very mysterious. Next is the campus resources. This is going to just open right up in a new tab, and it is going to take you back out of campus to the My PSU page. So we are not going to do too much with it right now. We're instead going to go back to Canvas, and we are going to finish up looking at the courses widget and all of the numerous little subtabs that you can find underneath it. Beyond that, you have the calendar option. This is just like the calendar we looked at under the course, but if you have multiple classes, it's going to show all of them here rather than just that individual class. The inbox is going to show any direct messages you have if you message people through Teams. I do most of my correspondence either through my email or discussion threads, so I don't have anything located here. But sometimes professors or other students will message you directly, and this is where those are going to be found. So if you have someone trying to coordinate with you on a project that the two of you are working on, and you haven't found those messages in some kind of discussion thread in your email, you might want to check out the inbox section in Canvas and see if those can be located there. The second to last tab is just going to be your recent history. And just like when you're using a regular internet browser, this is going to show you what you have been doing for however long you have been browsing and it has been saving your history. So we can see that over the last 20 some odd minutes, I have accessed each of these pages. If you go to a specific page for, say, an assigned reading or a discussion thread, what have you, and you accidentally get booted out of Canvas, you can always come back here, go right on to whichever you are trying to access. For example, I can do that weekly discussion that we were looking at earlier. Click on it, and it will take you right back to it as if you never left. The last tab that we're going to have is the Help tab. And once it loads, it is going to offer you a few different selections, asking questions to your instructor, getting technology help if you're having any issues with Canvas itself, getting campus resources if there's anything you need to access, as well as the list of notes for any kinds of updates that are applied to Canvas by the university. This is stuff that you don't always need to access, but if you would prefer to ask a question to your instructor through this help tab rather than directly emailing or directly messaging them through Canvas, it is certainly an option that you could take a look at. When you click on that, you can just pick which course you are looking to send that question about, type in your message, and click send. It's very quick and very simple. If you would like the technology help, it will take you over to the Office of Information Technology page on the main pdx.edu website, as well as basic information about the help desk. This can be handy for making sure that the workers are actually going to be available on a given day if you have an issue. If, for example, you're trying to reach someone and no one is responding, it can be nice to check here and see if, well, the lobby, phone, and chat support are actually only from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on December 22nd and 23rd. And here I am at 7 p.m. sending a message and wondering why I'm not getting a response. Moving back, the campus resources for students and faculty will also, once again, take you back to this main mypdx.edu page with the various options that you can find here that we will go over at a different time. I hope that this video has been informative for you. I hope you've gotten a little bit better of an understanding of how Canvas works, of the different tools that you can use to make it a little bit more tailored to your individual preferences, to your individual courses. And I hope after viewing it, you find things are just a little bit less confusing and you have at least one or two fewer questions about how do I do this? Thank you for taking the time to join me and looking at the various functionalities. I hope you all have a lovely day.